Welcome back into the Future Ryan Sports and Political Podcast. This is the podcast. We are back, everybody. Sunday special edition. I just felt the need to talk about this stuff because, and this may happen often, I may feel the need to talk about stuff like this often because, again, with the immigration thing, with the denying service, with the media skewing things, with the Time magazine, it is all in the attempt for a cultural shift, and we are seriously in a time where it's just a cultural shift that's not for the better. It's not positive. So I just feel as if, we're in a time and society where people want to recreate the sentiment of something, of a movement fighting something terrible, except the problem is, after problems get solved, there's only so many terrible things you can fight against. Okay, these issues have been dealt with. That doesn't mean we erase history or take away history. America was not always this pinnacle of excellence. But everything, led up to the moment we're in now. Everything led up to this. The formation of a central bank, the national defense mechanisms, the concepts of a free market and innovation and social progress through the years, from abolition of slavery to the obviously suffragist movement, to the 1960s, 1950s, 1960s fight against racism, racial injustice. Every single move has led up to this moment where innovation and technology are at an all-time high. We have the most efficient world we've ever been in because of American education, because of American free enterprise. We have the strongest standing in the world because of our dedication to the military and funding the military. Also, again, one of the reasons why we have respect globally is because of our willingness to change based off of the understanding of wrongs within society. And again, the allowing of speech, the concept of giving power to equal power to individuals and arming people. They're sacred components to preserving these institutions. Every single thing has led up to this. To this moment right now, where racial inequality is at its lowest point in the American history. When racism, in terms of actions, possibly even thoughts, though there's no possible way to do a study on that, is at the lowest point it's ever been, where the free enterprise system has brought us the technology that has changed the entire world and has shifted the dynamic of the economy to put a premium on education. Also, militarily, values consistent with funding our military and maintaining diplomatic relations. Everything has led up to this moment. While trade relations may not be that great, they still exist. It's not dead. So what you have at the end of this is a culmination of the bad things in society that have ended in American society, and the good and the new, profoundly new, institutions and ideas that have been introduced in American government by American culture. All of that has culminated into this time period, and yet people are still nitpicking and because they're nitpicking, not only is it very difficult to fix this while keeping the integrity of the institutions, it gets ruined by the cultural shifts, quote unquote, that are trying to be recreated, but really are not required to be or need to be, even to develop a more fair system or more equality. What you are risking is getting rid of the systems that have worked and that's just scary. Let me be clear, you're not going to revert back to the old social norms. That's not going to happen. But the institutions that have helped to grow this place and also grow the kind of evolution in society in terms of a equality standpoint, those things get taken away if we continue to go on this train. That's why I wanted to talk about Jason Whitlock's interview with Ben Shapiro. And one of the questions that were asked was, what's your take on the NFL scandal and the NFL players? And he said, look, the NFL provides millions of dollars to black athletes, scholarships to college, and we are trying to tear this down. And that's the question. Okay? Because there are problems in society we have identified in our history. We have created institutions and programs to deal with those problems. Now the issue here is that if we're going to nitpick every detail of those institutions, we are empirically dismantling it in every possible way. And dismantling the institutions that have progressively developed our American society and dismantling those ideas and values, what is that going to create? Again, socially, I don't think it's much of an issue. But as far as the value of America, what America will be, the ability for America to live, quote unquote, that will all die because this stuff continues. So we have to be very careful. And it all of these little things play a role. All of these little things play a role in this. Anyway, I wanted to talk about some fun stuff. So Oklahoma City is stuck with Carmelo Anthony. He signed a $27 million deal because the Knicks traded his terrible contract to Oklahoma City. Is Sam Presti really a good general manager? Seriously, you've got to ask that question. So you've got Kevin Durant, you've got James Harden. You take the guy that's least team-oriented, that's the least skilled of all three guys, and you take him and you make him a franchise centerpiece at the expense of the other two guys and long-term at the expense of your team. Then what do? You trade for a terrible contract in Carmelo Anthony, and you're stuck with him for the next 2 years. He's ball-centric. He's ball-dominant. He doesn't play defense. The exact reasons why Kevin Durant left to go to the Warriors, which are the opposite of what Oklahoma City's culture was, what it is, and the reason why the Warriors continue to win championships 3 out of 4. Then, you decide to do something stupid and take Paul George, who everyone thinks he's coming to LA, coming to Oklahoma City for a 1-year rental, knowing full and well that your system won't work, that you have, even if the system works, 3 inferior players to the 3 in Golden State. I mean, my God. How stupid can you possibly be? Sam Presti drafted well, but he's not good in the deal making. He's not good with the actual nitty-gritty of the GM stuff. So stop lauding this guy. He's done a terrible job. They should have multiple championships. They have none. They will continue to have none. And it is because of this guy. Blame Russ if you want. And I do too. But who coddled him? who made him the stubborn-headed, stupid guy that he is. And even if he stayed like that, at least he wouldn't be in Oklahoma City if the thought process behind free agency moves was smart, was long-term. It's a copycat league. Look at the league. Tell me who's successful. Crazy alphas are not successful. Kobe's the exception because he played with Shaq. Jordan's the exception because while he was narcissistic, he was great. He was the greatest player ever. Those two guys, number one, Kobe's situation is different. He wouldn't have won without the supporting cast, while the narcissistic Kobe throws up air balls and misses a bunch of shots. You can't deny Shaq's 43. You can't deny Bynum and Gasol's 50 to 55. This, my friends, is the proof of history. Look at every situation. Notice every situation. You do realize why LeBron, with 2 less championships and 4 more finals losses, is considered greater all time than Kobe Bryant. And whenever we watch him, we recognize that he's greater than Kobe Bryant because he's relevant every single year. He is relevant every single year in ways Kobe wasn't. And the reason why I make that point is, look at situations, look at history. Sam Presti, you invested in Russell Westbrook. It isn't Westbrook's fault that you did that, it's your fault. You should have known better. Apparently, there's not much to talk about in the NFL now. So what people care about now is a radio guy did an interview with an NFL player, and it is now a big deal. Seriously, a radio guy, Colin Cowherd, I respect the guy a lot. I watch his show every single day. It's a very good show. A radio guy does an interview with a player that has not stepped foot on a pro field ever. And yet that is the leading sports magazine topic of the day. Why? Because you have nothing else to talk about. And you know what? Stop knocking Cowherd over the interview. Stop knocking him over the interview. You want to talk about the play in the end zone. It's a fair question. It's also a fair response. But to act like it's not a fair question and it's just a hit job is ridiculous. Because that's not what starting quarterbacks do. That's what receivers do. That's not what starting quarterbacks do. Now Baker responded and said, look, that's something that I don't do at all. I don't do it usually. Okay. But the 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 one time you do it, you deserve to be called out on it. Stop slamming the interview. Please. I mean, it was a fine interview. That's the one bad question people say. And it's not even a bad question. It's a decent question, but the response was abrasive. And a fair response, but it was abrasive, so it got viewed as a bad question. Stop slamming him over that. Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk about is the World Cup. Everybody's like, oh my God, the World Cup, the World Cup. The World Cup's so great, and I agree with them, and this is why. This brings me to a bigger point than just the World Cup. It really doesn't have anything to do with actual sports. It has stuff to do with sports media. Because what is sports media wants to find things on its network, fund events on its network, and then based on the popularity of those events, broadcast discussions and reactions on that network to promote that particular show. And this is what I have never understood about sports media. Why in the world do people have to wait for sports to be? Number one. Number two, why aren't they on programs that actually cover the events? Okay, see, this is the thing. Jamie Horowitz invests in NASCAR and drag racing. ESPN invests in softball. No offense to girls. No one cares about softball. Yet you pay for this programming. You pay for Golden Boy, Premier Boxing that no one watches. Okay, like, why would you invest in those type of programs? I understand we're trying to broaden your audience. If you're going to try to do that with baseball and hockey. But even then, the broad audience watches a narrow group of sports, football and basketball. So what are you left with? Broadcast that. Talk about that. And that's what they do. But I have never understood I have never understood why TNT doesn't get into this. Why ABC doesn't get into this. Because with them partnering with ESPN, or some of the major personalities, they can actually get in on some of this content. Not only do they run the content, if they run the after content, what happens? You're diluting the stuff no one watches but the but you're charged for. You're still getting the same debate stuff and the sports programming that you want to watch. And if it happens simultaneously, if you don't have to wait a day, again, this is the beauty of SportsCenter. They have analysts, they talk about it, but here's the issue. It's become more of a highlight reel. Now it's the SC at 6 was about a political stunt with Jamel Hill and Michael Smith. But in general, it's become more of a highlight reel that with the internet, anyone can watch. And ESPN is being smart by cutting the cord. But the ESPN Plus app has all the programming no one ever watches. A lot of people still watch TV though. This is my major complaint with ESPN. If you want ratings, okay, and 10 to 12 is an awkward time to wake up and watch TV. Somehow First Take works based on its timing. But why wouldn't ESPN consolidate with TNT over NBA, where there's a double partnership deal, where not only do the NBA on TNT guys go at it, the ESPN guys go at it with the NBA on TNT guys. You get immediate reaction after the game. That's clickbait. People are watching it during that time. People stay up late. People don't watch TV from 10 to 12. And if you're going to cord cut, why start to do that with programs no one watches? Cut out the softball. Cut out the golf. Cut out the baseball. And you know what will happen after that? The game, the sport, will cater itself to the viewer. And as a result, the sports will become more entertaining. So what you have is better viewership, more clickbait, more online stuff, more polarization, combined with, eventually, again, this is the market will regulate everything. The market will make sure that baseball and tennis and softball and boxing stay relevant or become relevant. Why? Because if they don't stay relevant, they're not going to be on TV, and they want to be on TV. That'll mean improvements in the game and more accessibility. So again, this is the same type of thing with healthcare. You force the market, you allow the consumer to dictate what they're getting into, and the care, and the cost, and the accessibility, all of that will follow. And that applies here as well. Why would you invest in NASCAR? Why would you invest in softball if no one's going to watch them? And if you want people to watch them, guess what? Cut them off for a while. Say, you know what? We're not going to watch this. Or ESPN, say, look, we're not going to give you this supply of money that is required for you to succeed. The government, in a sense, does this with healthcare, with association health plans, because what they say is, well, look, if the consumers don't want your plan, they can just leave and we allow them to do this. This is different from the government actually directly hindering the profits of health insurance, because health insurance will find a way to make up these profits. Softball and tennis, and to an extent baseball, can't. Especially because they're not necessities. But either way, if ESPN or if the consumer or a coordination of both forces the market to adjust, you will see more entertaining product. And because they haven't, because they aren't, because you're seeing the same mundane stuff, ESPN's ratings are dying. The sports that they actually invest in are ridiculous because they're not entertaining. And if the point of ESPN, if the point of Fox Sports was to entertain, you've got to let the market dictate what you do. You can't just invest in this stuff blindly. No one watches it. Let the market dictate the sports that you put on your programming, and the sports themselves will improve. Why? Because in order to remain viable, they need to have a television presence. So anyway, I should be the TV mogul of the world. But this is the Ashish and Ryan Sports and Political Podcast, coming to you live from Hilliard, Ohio. Fun Sunday special edition. I'll come back to you tomorrow with the latest in whatever is going on in the stupid world of politics.